As I mentioned earlier, we have guest speaker Louie Sharp with us today for today's event, Lead Yourself with Goals and Love. Louie Sharp is a nationally renowned world-class keynote speaker with over 14 years of professional speaking experience. He's been seen on NBC, ABC, a variety of podcasts, and he's delivered keynote speeches for distinguished companies such as DuPont, Edward Jones, Sage, Fender Bender, Exalta, and many others. And then he also consults and coaches with CEOs, entrepreneurs, and business owners across the country. So with that, I am going to hand it over to Louie. Thank you so much for putting this event on for us. We're really excited to have you.
Maddie Christensen was born with no hands from the elbow down and no legs from the knee down, as you can see in this picture. But Maddie Christian was blessed with parents who told him his entire life, you can do anything you set your mind to. So Maddie Christensen decided that he wanted to play baseball. And as you can see from here, they got prosthetic devices for his legs, and they got a prosthetic device for his arm with that like mitt kind of web thing, so he could throw and catch a baseball. But Maddie Christensen didn't decide to just let it stay there. Maddie Christensen wanted to be a baseball pitcher. So those of you that may know something about baseball, really important for a pitcher to be able to feel the ball in his hand, to be able to feel the seams. That's how they throw different balls, a curveball, a slider, a fastball. The other thing that's important for a pitcher is to be able to feel the pitching rubber. It's a piece of rubber that the pitcher has to be touching when he lets go of the ball. But Maddie Christensen didn't have any feet, so he couldn't feel the pitching rubber. And Maddie Christensen didn't have any hands, so he couldn't even feel the baseball to throw it, to do different things with it for different pitches. But that didn't let Maddie Christensen stay down or keep him down. Maddie Christensen, at the age of 11 years old, took his Little League team to the New York State Championships, where they came in second place with Maddie Christensen as the pitcher. I love this story about Maddie Christensen because as we talk about goals today, I want you to understand that I believe and I know that we live in a world where everything is possible. And you can do less and accomplish more. And that's what we're going to talk about today, goals and love and how to do less and accomplish more. We're going to need to do a couple of things before we start into the content. I want you to understand that every one of us is built and hardwired to succeed. And we have proof of it with everybody every day. Do you ever see anybody crawl into a room? Nope. Do you ever see anybody show up at a meeting and they can't speak? That doesn't happen either, because we were built to succeed. As little babies, we stood up and fell down and stood up and fell down and stood up and fell down until we taught ourselves to walk. We never quit. The same thing with learning the language. We didn't stop after we went goo goo gaga and couldn't get mama or dada out. We kept going. So we're hardwired to succeed. Now, I want you to let yourself off the hook. If your parents look like the guy on the right, I want you to understand that your whole life people started to tell you things that wasn't true. Let's go back to that baby example. When everybody wanted you to walk and talk, what happened the day you walked or the day you said your first word? They called everybody, literally everybody. They rang the phone off the hook. You'll never guess. They said, mama, dad, little Junior walked today. It was a big deal. But as soon as that happened, what happened after that? They started with the limiting beliefs. Don't touch your sister. Don't run with scissors. Don't climb on the cabinets. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't touch the stove. And then we started to be this little being that was built and wired to succeed. And then we started believing, well, maybe I can't succeed, or maybe I shouldn't try, or maybe I'm going to be embarrassed, or maybe I'm going to be made fun of. So there's 8 areas of your life. This is the PDF that was in the QR code that you all have access to. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to start, there's a page that has the 8 areas of your life, and you can rate them from 1 to 10. So what I'd like you to do right now is I'd like you to pull out that PDF, and of the 8 areas, I want you to be honest with yourself. Nobody's going to see this but you. And I want you to rate yourself between 1 and 10. And I'm going to give you a couple minutes to do that. The second page of that form has a circle. And what I want you to do is I want you to plot on that circle the 8 areas and put it on there's vertical, horizontal, and 2 diagonal lines. Plot it on your point from 0 to 10 on that line. So now after you've plotted those numbers on the graph, what I'd like you to do is connect the dots. And this is where it gets funny and interesting because it's not going to be smooth. It's going to be jagged and it's going to be all kind of funky in different places. So now what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to pick the one area, and you're going to get to pick this. It could be the number or the area where you had the lowest rating, the lowest number. It could be another one. But if you've got something that's out there running at an 8 or 9, I would suggest you don't pick that one to get it to a 9 or a 10. And here's one of the reasons why. The rising tide brings all the ships up. Well, the same thing's true with the areas of your life. When you improve one area of your life, the rest of your life gets better. It has to. It's all connected. A great example of this is exercise. If you're not exercising now and you start exercising is what's known as a keystone habit, then your entire life will get better because you start exercising. So go ahead and pick the one area in your life that you'd want to improve. Now what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to add 2 more. And I want you to have the 3 that you pick. I want you to have 1 that's going to be in your happy world, 2 in the health and fitness, and 3 in the wealth area. And wealth could be your job. Happy could be your job too if you're unhappy where you're working now. And now that you have those 3 picked, now we can start. So you also got a page to write 100 successes. Now, we don't have time to do all of this today, but I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to start writing successes. We often don't realize how much we've accomplished in our life because we often focus on what's not working, where we failed, and those kinds of things. So go ahead and start writing 100 successes. And as you're doing that, I'm going to say some things out loud to give you some ideas. And you'll be amazed at the things that you've seen that you've forgotten about. So, for example, if you have a driver's license, that's a success. There's people that can't pass that test or don't know how to drive. Do you know how to use a computer? People that don't know how to do that. Did you complete the 1st grade, the 2nd grade, the 3rd grade, the 4th grade, the 5th grade? That goes on. Do you know how to read? Do you know how to write? Do you know how to cook? Do you know how to play a musical instrument? Do you know how to sing? If you're working, you've successfully landed a job. Do you know how to use Outlook? Do you know how to use Microsoft Office? Do you know how to use Excel? Do you know how to use the software programs that your company is using to run? Do you know how to read a map? Do you know how to program MapQuest so you can find your way without having to read a map? And as you can see, do you know how to dress yourself? There's people that don't know how to dress themselves. There's people that have somebody else set out their wardrobe because they can't coordinate colors very well, and they look funny like a clown because they mixed the wrong colors, like a plaid with a polka dot. And we've all seen those people. That's not funny. It's not pretty. Well, it's kind of funny. So this is an exercise I'd like you to complete by the end of the week. This is the great thing to do on a regular basis is sit down and just write things that you've succeeded at and things you've accomplished in the past. Now, everybody's probably heard about SMART goals, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that. You do have a sheet that came with it. For those of you that are unfamiliar, SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. But for today's purposes, let's keep it simple. How much by when? So the first thing, I'm going to teach you 3 strategies today. The number 1 strategy I'm going to share with you is let go of perfect. If you notice, the taillights on this car are not lighting up in exactly the same place. Now, and there's a lot of car people here, and I understand, does this car still function? Yes. Does it have 2 lights? Yes. Is it perfect? No. And we could take the car apart and fix it or order another taillight, depending on which side you want to change. We could do all that work. But at the end of the day, one of the things that holds us up when it comes to goals is perfect, wanting perfection. You're going to fail. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And what you want to do is realize that failure is part of this process. But when you fail, you want to understand that what you want to do is just simply start again. And that's why you need to let go of perfect. When we hang on to perfect, we think that if we don't do this thing completely every day and we miss one day, or we even miss 2 or 3 days, that we failed and we can't start again. And nothing's further from the truth. Did you stumble? Without a doubt. Remember when you were that little baby and you stumbled and fell down? Did you stay down? No, you didn't. You got back up and you learned how to walk. So when you think about your goals and the things that you want to accomplish, let go of perfect. And a great example of this would be exercise. If your goal is to exercise 30 minutes every day and you only have 15 minutes today, or even 5 minutes, is 5 minutes of exercise better than no exercise? Well, of course it is. But sometimes we think that if we didn't do it perfectly, if we didn't do the whole 30 minutes, that it's not any good at all, and we're going to not do it today, or we're going to move on and stop doing it. And often, as you well know, once you stop, it's really hard. For a length of time, it's hard to start again. So start again and start again. You're going to fail. You're going to have things come up. Life happens. Things get in the way. But again, just keep restarting. And even if your exercise program is 30 minutes a day, restart with 5 minutes a day. And this is my point. Small steps are still movement. There's a great story of a guy that started wanting to get healthy. And every morning after he brushed his teeth, he did 1 push-up. And he did 1 push-up for a week. And then after a week, he did 2 push-ups. And then he did 3 push-ups. And then he did 4 push-ups. And today he does 100 push-ups every morning. But it was small steps consistently over time. There's a great book out there called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. Highly recommend that book. Highly recommend that book because it talks about just that concept. Small steps over time will always win the race. It's the rabbit and the hare story. Let go of perfect. Now, we're down to 3 goals. If you're that busy, you've picked your number 1 goal, the number 1 goal that's going to up-level your life, change the game, move you to the next level. That number 1 goal, just do 1 small step on that every day. If you can do something on all 3 of those goals, and we're not going to work on all 8 areas of your life, that's overwhelm. We've already got enough things going on. Let go of all that. I got to fix it all. I got to create all this, or I want to accomplish all this. Those 3 things. If you're happy, healthy, and wealthy, life's a breeze. That's why we're going after those 3. This is Jared Silver, a client of mine, and he pretty much are really close to going out of business through the pandemic. And so he hired me to help him. And with the power of small steps, so one of the things I tell my clients is, what's 5 things you can do every day, specifically in his case for sales. So I gave him 5 things to do every day that he could do that was going to help grow sales and get his business back on track. Well, I can tell you there were plenty of times that Jared stopped because he didn't do 5. And so then I got him to wrap his brain around, look, if you do 1, that's still better than nothing. And if you were to do 1 thing for sales every day, going into the future on a regular, consistent basis, it's not a question of if sales will go up, it's a question of when. And so again, to our model, let go of perfect. When Jared let go of perfect and realized, oh my gosh, 1 action a day for sales or marketing is good enough to start growing my business, and he let himself off the hook for perfect, then his business has grown, and now he's financially stable and actually looking to hire employees. And here's what I want you to understand when we're talking about goals and love. Give yourself some grace. We all know you're working hard. We all know you're doing your best. Let yourself off the hook. And if it doesn't happen today, get back on the horse tomorrow. Because remember, you can do less and accomplish more. And these 3 strategies are going to help you get there. The next one is cut your goal in half. And I know you're muted, but if we were in a room, it would be loud. There'd be groaning, moaning. I'd be getting dirty looks like right now. But I can tell you that I've got some interesting statistics that I'm going to share with you in just a second. But here's my point. Have you ever gone to a buffet and you come home stuffed? That's because your eyes are bigger than your stomach and you want all this food and you overeat. Setting goals is the same thing. Once you jump into your goals, you think, oh my gosh, well, if I'm going to set a goal and I want to have $10,000, why not make it $20,000? If I want to get sales to $500,000, why not make it $1 million? That's all great stuff. But at some point, that's that perfection thing, and you start to wear yourself down. So cut your goal in half. 92% of people don't complete their goals. That's a staggering number, 92%. And we're at that time of year where everybody set a bunch of resolutions. And here's something that's interesting about resolutions, right? You get all hyped up at the first of the year and you're going to set all these goals and you go out and buy a gym membership and new running shoes and you go at it like a monster. And then it fades. And the reason why it fades is because you start working out for an hour, hour and a half a day at the beginning of the year. But the reality is you didn't build that kind of time in. And this is why small steps over time. Start working out for 5 minutes a day. You'll be amazed at the difference it's going to make. And then you add a minute. Go to 6 minutes. Go to 7 minutes. Now, this is the number I want you to really pay attention to. 63% of the people who cut their goals in half get them done. 63% who cut them in half accomplish them. That's because it seems a lot more attainable, and small actions will get you there. Here's the other thing. A bunch of you may still be pushing back. That's okay. God bless you. You get to hang on to whatever you want to hang on to. So if you don't want to cut your goal in half, then double the time. If your goal was to get $1 million in sales by the end of the fiscal year, or if your fiscal year ends in December, push it back to 2024. So double the time. So what I'd like you to do now is I'm going to give you a couple minutes. I want you to go back and adjust the 3 goals that you wrote for happy, healthy, and wealthy. I want you to go back and I want you to cut those 3 goals, either cut them in half or double your time. So go ahead and do that now. So for those of you that don't know, and I don't know that Stephanie said it at the beginning, I've owned a body shop for the last 41 years, as well as owning the speaking business, consulting, and coaching. And one of the tow truck drivers that used to call on me on a regular basis was unhappy with the company he was working with. And he wanted to break out on his own. So he hired me to do some consulting for him to launch his company. And it's funny because, again, he had that whole let's go big thing. And so I talked him off the cliff. His name is Paul McNamara. I talked him off the cliff because he wanted to start with 2 or 3 trucks, start his company with a fleet of trucks, but he didn't have any employees. It was just him and his wife. And I said, Paul, start this thing small. Let's cut this goal back. Let's start with a truck and you and your wife and get things going. I got a lot of pushback, got a lot of resistance. But I said, look, your goal is to succeed over the long term, not blow out. And if you take on all this debt and you buy a bunch of trucks right off the bat, there's a pretty good chance if something happens, you're going to be stuck because you're going to put all your money into buying these trucks and then have truck payments. So you could go down the tubes really quick. And we don't want that to happen. So I talked him off the edge. And sure enough, he took my advice and he bought 1 tow truck. Started with him and his wife. Now it gets even better. He started a towing company in the middle of the pandemic. In August, after they locked everything down in March and April, he started a towing company when everybody was sitting at home. But because he didn't go big, not only is he still in business, but today he has 7 trucks in 2.5 years. He has 7 trucks and 13 drivers. But because when you pace yourself and you accomplish things over the long haul, it's amazing what we can do. We often overestimate what we can do in a short period of time. And that's why people give up on their goals. Remember that 92%. But when you make it realistic, it was not a big stretch for him to go out and buy 1 tow truck, and his wife was working for the company. So all they had to do was feed 2 mouths, not 13 employees. So again, really powerful to have either your goal cut in half or double the time you're going to produce it in. Because remember, our goal is to do less and accomplish more. And that's the way to have fun in life. The next thing is eliminate, 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 eliminate. We all live in a world where there's too much going on and we add more and more to our lives. So to do less and accomplish more, you need to eliminate. So what in your world can you delegate? I'll give you a great example. what is something that you want to get off your plate? I know a very, very dear friend of mine. She has teenage boys. Guess who's still taking out the garbage? She is. Are you kidding me? Teenage boys and they're not taking out the garbage? At work, what can you delegate or give away? I can tell you in today's world, you can hire people on Fiverr. You can hire a virtual assistant. And you can hire I actually have a virtual assistant in the Far East that costs me pennies on the dollar compared to a virtual assistant in America. I also have a virtual executive assistant. And so what can you do to delegate? Now, here's something really important. For the three things, for your business, there's only 2 or 3 things that you do that bring the most value. So for example, if you're in sales in your company and you're busy spending your day answering emails that aren't sales related, that's something that you can delegate. And yes, you can delegate email. Right now I'm playing with and talking to somebody that I'm going to start handling my voicemail, because I don't make money listening to voicemails. I make money doing this right here. I make money helping businesses grow their business. So if anything I can give away that's not that, I want to give it away. Don't add, subtract. I want you to learn the power of a 2-letter word called no. And you can say no with love. No, I have a prior commitment. No, I don't have the time for that. No, that's not something I'm interested in. I want you to start thinking about, where can you subtract? And before we move on, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to look at those 3 goals that we wrote. And what's something that you need to eliminate so you have the bandwidth to be happy, healthy, and wealthy? I'll give you a great example. On your healthy, if you're drinking pop and coffee all day long, really easy. Subtract that from your world. Stop drinking pop. Stop eating candy. Stop eating fast food. A buddy of mine lost 35 pounds. He did one thing. He stopped eating fast food. In your wealth, what could you eliminate? One of the things I share with people, very powerful, take your debit card out of your wallet, your purse, and leave it home. That'll stop you from that impulse buying at the Starbucks or at the grocery store or at Target or Kohl's or wherever else you may be shopping. But you can see my point. One of the things that's really powerful is when we get clear on exactly what's going to make us happy, healthy, and wealthy, and we start taking things away and out of our world, it frees up bandwidth. It frees up our mind power. It frees up our energy. It frees up our enthusiasm. So what are three simple tasks for each one of those goals? What's something that you can stop doing or eliminate? And this is what we're talking about. What can you stop doing? Often we take on goals and we take on too many goals and we start adding more stuff to a plate that's already full. And we're all balancing kids and work and school and practices and all those things. Stop adding stuff. Start thinking about what's not in alignment with where I want to go, who I want to be, and get that stuff off your calendar. Get it off your plate. And I'll touch on this real quick. People often push back at me, Louie, I can't afford to hire a virtual assistant, or I can't afford to hire somebody. Think about what the cost of your client is. So if you're closing a deal, so in the body shop, our average RO these days is way up there. So if I can hire people to do work for me and all I do is close ROs, I can easily pay for an assistant that's now answering the phone, checking my emails, responding to my voicemails, going to the mailbox to get the mail, sorting the mail. You get the point. Karen's an amazing woman. She came to me. She was or still is the mother of a son who died of a drug and alcohol overdose. And she loved her son. It was very painful. And so Karen's mission in the world today is to figure out and help mothers get through the pain and the trauma of either one, having children that are addicted and they can't help them, or two, that they've been addicted and like her, they've passed and help them get through that pain and the grief and the suffering. And when Karen came to me, she was doing all those things. But one of the things that Karen was doing, instead of coaching these moms, is she was busy reading books and going to seminars And I said to her, I said, Karen, look, I said, you've got the skills and the talents already. Let's let go and let's start coaching people. I said, even if you have to start coaching people for free, start doing that. I can tell you that today, Karen's got a meetup group that has somewhere between 50 to 70 women show up every 2 weeks a month. And she's driven coaching clients through that process. And so now she's coaching mothers just like herself who've had the trauma and the loss and the suffering of having children that are addicted to something and losing their lives or have lost their life. So again, Karen's gotten where she's at because she started taking things away that were taking up her bandwidth of energy and enthusiasm, and in her case, even money. So again, we want to do less to accomplish more. These 3 strategies will help you do that. One of the things I shared with Stephanie is time management. So time management's just as important. And I don't want to talk a lot about this because you might have had some of this, but I want to be really clear. Time management, it's an illusion. Time management does not exist. We are all given the same 24 hours. I can do all kinds of magical things. At the end of the day, I still have 24 hours. You can do whatever you want to do. At the end of the day, you have 24 hours. Time management is a great misnomer. What you really have is the ability and the choice to manage you. And the best way to manage you is start looking at yourself a long, cold, hard look at what are you doing that's wasting your time, your energy, and your money. I just recently did this at the end of last year, and I'm going to be perfectly transparent. I can tell you I was sucked in when I realized and looked at the amount of time I was spending on Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, and all the other social media platforms. I thought, man, Louie, you need to get off of this. And I can tell you it's not easy, but I took some of those apps right off my cell phone so I don't have that temptation. But I'm responsible for that. And by taking that time or that discipline to take those things out of my calendar, it's given me time to do other things, other positive, productive things that are little steps that head me toward those 3 goals. Plan the outsides. When I'm talking about the outsides, I'm talking about outside of work. If you're not currently planning your day before work and after work, highly recommend you start that right now. I can tell you, I plan every morning and every evening. People often ask me, how come I get so much done? It's because I don't let that spare time go by. Remember, we were talking about little things that you can subtract? How about if you just took out 1 hour of TV at night and you did something positive during that 1 hour? You spent time with the wife and kids, or your husband and kids, or you spent time reading a book or learning a new skill. Same thing in the morning. What you do in the morning, and there's a bunch of books. The Miracle Minute is one of them. The Hour of Power is another one. And they all talk about what you do first thing in the morning sets up your entire day. Highly recommend that you start a morning routine, but plan the outsides of your life, because those are just as critical and important. I just said that in the morning. Here's something that I learned from a good friend of mine. In your calendar, if you're a planner, and I highly recommend you plan, if you work from a list, you're 25% more productive than those that don't, just from working from a list. Put blank space on your calendar, because life happens. And if you have blank space on your calendar and a meeting runs over or something else happens, then you've got leeway and give. And so you're not constantly bummed out or freaked out or stressed out because you're now out of time and you don't know what to do because you've got to push something or delay something or reschedule it altogether. So what I do is I block an hour in the morning and I block an hour in the afternoon. And you think, my God, Louie, how can you give up 2 hours? I don't give up 2 hours. I just have now the cushion if something goes south that I can move things around. It also gives me the ability to refocus. So if I haven't gotten anything done, then I can go get something specific that I want to get done. Now, I want to tell you something. The morning at work, really critical. So if you set a sales goal, and I teach some time management stuff that's really self-management, but if you set a sales goal, for example, and I teach the ABCs of time management. And so you give the most important things an A, and then you give all your A's a number. But what you want to do every morning at work is you want to knock out your A1. And if you have a sales goal, for example, then the very first thing you want to do every morning is, like I said, if you do 5 things, you're going to you're going to rock. But even if you do one thing every morning, and that's the first thing you do at all costs, you don't open your email, you don't check voicemail messages, you don't walk around the office or the shop looking for people and say good morning. You sit down and you do that A1 every morning before anything else happens. And this is how I have a guarantee when people hire me for consulting. I tell them, I guarantee or your money back that in 90 days, you're going to make more money in less time, or I give you your money back. And these are the simple things I teach these people. The first thing you do every morning is the most important thing. You don't leave it till later in the day, because we all know that we'll push it down the road. Great book called Eat the Frog by Brian Tracy. But knock out that, and that number one goal, your number one goal that we talked about, that's your weakest area of your life. Go after that bad boy first thing every morning, either at home or work, wherever that applies. So the same thing with your time management, your self-discipline. Let go of perfect. If you plan today and it goes out the window, that's okay. Start again tomorrow and plan. Cut the goal in half or double the time. This is the same thing we were just talking about. You can do this with your schedule. Cut your day. Like I said, I block 2 hours. That's actually cutting my goal to be effective and proficient and productive all day. I'm cutting that goal in half by adding 2 hours. And again, what can you do? What's on your calendar that you could eliminate? Again, eliminating gives you space and time and room for you. And most importantly, it gives you space and time for you to recharge. One of the things that I've included in this package is a mirror exercise. I highly, highly recommend you do the mirror exercise every night before you go to work. It's a very powerful process, and you want to protect yourself and love yourself. Like I said before, you give yourself grace. You give yourself forgiveness, because you're going to fail. You're going to have bad days. Doesn't mean we quit. We just pick it up and start again. And we're clear on where we're going, because we've got goals that we're working on, and those are the goals that we're going after. It's a little blurry, and I apologize. This is a picture of me water skiing. But I want you to know that I believe we live in a world where everything's possible. Maddie Christensen's playing baseball with no hands and no feet. This is Louie Sharp water skiing the summer after he had open heart surgery. I had a quadruple bypass, and I started getting back into shape, and this is me water skiing. And so I want you to know that you have the ability to eliminate things, reduce things, use these 3 strategies. And here's what I'm going to end with before we go to Q&A. I don't want you to believe anything I've told you today. I don't want you to believe anything I told you today. I want you to go prove it to yourself. Emily gave me an outstanding and amazing compliment at the beginning before we got ready to start. And I want you to know that one of the reasons why I'm so successful as a speaker is because there's nothing I've ever spoken about from the stage that I haven't tried myself, had success, know it works, and implement it. I've never, ever spoken about anything from the stage that doesn't work. And that's why I tell you, don't believe me, go implement it, because you'll see the magic in your life. So now we're going to open it up to Q&A. Thank you.